Welcome to the weather forecast on the CIA TV channel. Dear friends, in today's forecast, we'll break down what you need to know about the weather that will affect the United States over the next 7 days. An extremely dangerous weather system is moving into the United States, bringing the threat of extreme heat across the Great Plains, Midwest, and back into the Southeast. Additionally, more severe weather is possible across the Central and Northern Plains, Midwest, and Ohio Valley, and we'll start with what's happening across the country today. Now, let's talk a little bit more about when severe weather will occur, starting today, which is when we're watching this general area for storms to start coming back up in eastern North and South Dakota and western Minnesota, where a couple of severe storms will try to form. This will be around sunset. I think around 6 to 8 o'clock is really going to be the time frame to watch, because there could be some large hail and wind storms. And there's also a chance for a couple of tornadoes from these storms. By 10 o'clock, these storms will continue to move across western Minnesota with large hail, strong winds, and a couple of tornadoes possible. We'll have a line of severe storms as we get closer to late evening, moving toward Duluth, also toward the Twin Cities, and then into the night. This storm will move through Wisconsin. A couple more storms could also be possible in north-central Iowa and just south of the Twin Cities. This is going to be a real conditional risk for severe weather across the board. The environment is actually going to be pretty favorable for severe weather. But all the storms that are going to be going on throughout the morning from what's going to happen today across the Midwest are going to play a role. Because all the showers and storms are going to play a role in basically stabilizing our atmosphere across the Midwest, including Iowa and Wisconsin. So if we get a lot of rain in the morning and early afternoon, we might have a hard time actually seeing any severe weather. But at least it shows a few storms coming in around mid to late afternoon and early evening with strong winds and a low risk of tornadoes. After sunset, that's when things could get a little more interesting with scattered to very scattered storms, mostly strong winds and hail, no real risk of tornadoes. But notice how it shows a lot of storms coming in just after midnight across Iowa, Illinois, and near Kansas City. And with this particular scenario, if we do see a lot of these storms, they're likely to be slow moving. And that's not only going to lead to severe weather, but major flooding is going to be a concern throughout Sunday evening and night. And then as we get into Monday, the risk of severe weather is much lower across most of the United States. Right now, the tropics are warming up across the Atlantic. We have 2 areas developing right now, one of which has a low chance of development east of the Carolinas, and another area that has a fish storm potential. It's east of the Lesser Antilles. It's going to move east of Bermuda here over the next week or so, with a moderate chance of development there. And finally, as we move into next week, I think there is at least a chance that a tropical wave originating from Africa will have a chance to move across the western Atlantic into the Caribbean Sea. There could also be a threat at some point on its way to the Greater Antilles and possibly even the United States. That is something we are watching very closely. It is not an imminent threat, so we don't know exactly if it will happen, but I think there is about a 30 to 40% chance that we will see some development in that area between now and about August 20th. Many of the models have shown these major storms making landfall in Florida or elsewhere across the United States. And remember, any model that shows anything more than 8 days out is going to be inaccurate. There's not enough technology right now to really have those models that are accurate for individual hurricanes that far out. So long term, I think the tropics are going to be very active over the next few weeks. We could have a fish storm or 2 here, just east of the Carolinas, as well as in the central Atlantic. But this is really what I want you to pay attention to right here. Now, let's talk more about the severe weather potential over the next few days, starting today. We have a slight risk of severe weather in the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. The marginal threat extends into the Texas Panhandle, as well as the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. All the severe weather dangers are discussed today, including the risk of damaging winds. which will be scattered at times across parts of Minnesota. I wouldn't be surprised if we had a small risk of damaging winds in central Minnesota in the outlook. But we'll have to wait and see. Large hail is also a possibility across Minnesota and the Dakotas, and keep in mind that we currently have a 5% risk of tornadoes, including in western Minnesota. And on Saturday, the severe weather threat continues across the Midwest and also returns to the high plains. If you go back to the Midwest, we have a slight risk of severe weather in Wisconsin and Iowa. A moderate threat will affect Kansas City and another moderate threat near Denver, Colorado, where the main concerns are strong winds and large hail. I think there will be at least a low risk of tornadoes in Colorado. On Sunday, we have another small threat of severe weather, mainly around Kansas City, just north of St. Louis, where there could be some strong winds and isolated hail. Tornado threat today for some of you in the Midwest and northern plains. But on top of that, we still have a lot of moisture coming out of the Gulf, especially as severe weather returns to the Midwest and northern plains. Back on the East Coast, not much to talk about right now. But back in the Atlantic, we have a very low chance of a tropical depression or storm forming over the next few days from this moist area. Ultimately, this tropical depression will move northeast and is expected to move away from the United States. And if it does, it is expected to have very minimal impacts across the country. Over the next few days, we will see a very different weather pattern, with a variety of threats, one of which is a major heat wave, more severe weather. Here is what is happening across the United States right now with the mid-level airflow. Right now, we have a low-pressure system, which is actually quite strong, in the far northern plains. That could increase the risk of severe weather today and tomorrow across the northern plains, the Midwest, and even the central plains. By mid to late next week, we could see a trough of low pressure forming again in the Rocky Mountains. So that's definitely something we'll need to keep an eye on. Now, one thing that this weather pattern is definitely going to bring is extreme and dangerous temperatures to areas like the Great Plains and the Midwest. Here's what we're seeing today in terms of temperature anomalies. We have a very warm air mass that's sitting right around and just east of Denver, Colorado. And that's going to bring some extreme temperatures and the potential for record high temperatures as well. And then next week, we're going to have a balance of above and below average temperatures throughout early to mid next week. Another heat wave is possible as we approach the weekend. We could be talking about more severe heat across the Great Plains. And sometimes, when cold air and warm air mix together, that can sometimes lead to a significant and higher risk of severe weather. But at least for now, that's the high temperature forecast for today, which is Friday. Most areas will be in the 100s. We'll have some areas in the 110s, including Omaha, Nebraska. Also back up to near Kearney, Nebraska, even back into the southwest, some areas could be near 120 degrees. And it's worth noting that yesterday in Phoenix, Arizona, it hit 118 degrees. Which was the hottest day on record in August in Phoenix, which is crazy. As we head into Saturday and Sunday, temperatures will start to cool off a little bit. However, most areas are still in the 100s. And by early next week, most of us will be back in the 90s. 100-degree temperatures will return mostly along the west coast and into Arizona. And then, in the middle and late next week, look for temperatures to return to the 100s from Texas all the way down to North Dakota. We will continuously update the storm situation in the next news. Please subscribe to the channel to follow. Thank you for watching the news on CIA TV channel.